What's going on, everyone? So Jaxson Hayes appears to want to stick around. And the reason this is a point of topic is because there were reports that came out, I want to say about 2 weeks ago now, talked about it on the channel, that he was not happy with his role towards the end of the season and was looking to go play elsewhere, that he wanted to leave the Los Angeles Lakers. And now, according to Jaxson Hayes himself, he is saying that that was all just noise, that that's not the truth, and that he is not ruling out the potential of re-signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. So, Lakers unrestricted free agent Jaxson Hayes hasn't ruled out a return to Los Angeles. And this is a response to an Instagram comment. Heard you don't want to be with the Lake Show anymore, and I don't blame you, gang. And Jaxson Hayes responded, "That's J false, my G. I def ain't saying that." So, again, from him, his words, he wants to, or at least is considering still the Lakers, that he doesn't want to just bail on the Lakers and be done, right? Jaxson Hayes was one of the most excited players for Luka Doncic, right? Because according to him, again, this is from his words, that he always wanted to play with Luka. Luka always wanted him to play with him. And that Dallas tried to trade for him when he was with the Pelicans on several occasions, right? Like Jaxson Hayes said that, like Luka was always interested in playing with him type thing. And they finally got to play together. And you saw their connection, right? You saw at times Jaxson Hayes and Luka Doncic being able to just be that lob threat. And there were times where Jaxson Hayes wasn't on the court, where you saw Luka kind of looking for that and didn't have that outlet. Because Luka really likes that lob threat outlet, right? Because you look at a guy like LeBron. LeBron likes more of the floor spacing, right? Because what he likes to do is just kind of put his head down, bully his way to the basket, and then finish at the rim or kick out to shooters, right? Especially that weak side corner, right? Because he likes to drive left. So boom, weak side corner, boom, kick out. Where Luka, he actually likes the traffic, right? So he likes to create that dribble penetration, get into the teeth of the defense, right? And then if he needs to, he can kick out to shooters. Or, if the defense doesn't collapse, it's an easy just pull up or, little lob or whatever, right? A little floater, not lob, little floater. And then he has the lob as the outlet for whoever that center is in the dunker spot. And a guy like Jaxson Hayes, who is a hyper athlete that you can just throw the ball up to, right, makes all the sense in the world. So I look at a guy like a Jaxson Hayes where, I do think that there are some benefits to keeping Jaxson Hayes around. My thing with Jaxson Hayes is I don't like him as a starter or even necessarily your primary backup. I don't mind him if he's your third big. And I've talked about this, right? And look, I want to give Jaxson Hayes some credit because Jaxson Hayes definitely deserves credit for having to step up when he did, right? You trade Anthony Davis, you don't have any other center. Jaxson Hayes, we needed Jaxson Hayes to be big, particularly during the regular season. I mean, we needed him to be big in the playoffs, and he kind of faded out. But to get to the playoffs, you need good regular season. Jaxson Hayes really stepped up. And there were moments where he was brilliant. There were moments where he was great. But if you're familiar with this channel, familiar with me, talk very heavily about yeah, this is great and all. I don't like him as a starting center. Playoffs come, it's going to be a problem. And that was exactly what happened, right? So again, I like Jaxson Hayes as a player in a role on this team where, on a random Tuesday, he's starting, sure, right? Couple guys get the night out. We'll just use Mark Williams and Clint Capella as an example. Say you have Mark Williams and Clint Capella as your two centers, right? Jaxson Hayes is your third. Perfect, right? Mark Williams gets the night off. Clint Capella moves into the starting unit. Jaxson Hayes as the backup. Perfect. Or, hey, man, we kind of want to run a little more on this team. Let's go with Jaxson Hayes as a starter. Sure, fine, on any given night. But I want kind of that depth. Again, something that I've talked about, I don't think the Lakers need a skill center. Talked about this very heavily. I don't think that that's a necessity. They need a center. A center is a necessity, but I don't think you necessarily need this super skilled, back to the basket, pull up, cross dude. I don't think you necessarily needed Anthony Davis with this team, right? It'd be nice. It'd be a great luxury to have, but I think it's kind of like the cherry on top rather than the cake itself, right? But I've talked about, I would love if we could do something like a Mark Williams, a Clint Capella, and a Jaxson Hayes, right? You look at the 2020 roster. You had Anthony Davis, who was your skilled center. Mark Williams. Obviously, Mark Williams is not Anthony Davis. I want to be clear there. But, the skill center, a guy that can pick and pop, that can create for himself, right? Create a little bit for others. That's not reliant on Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves, right? So you'd have, Anthony Davis, Mark Williams. Dwight Howard, Clint Capella. Again, not saying Clint Capella is Dwight Howard, but the more bigger, physical, interior type of center that can kind of be the bully ball guy. I kind of actually like Trey Jameson in that. Like, just pick up a flagrant, pick up a tech, right? Give me that, right? Like, hard playoff foul. Nothing dirty, nothing crazy, but, good, hard playoff foul, especially in today's NBA. Like, that is like right? If somebody flops, like flagrant, hit his wrist with 3 fingers instead of 2. Like, it's not what it used to be. But point is, like, that big, kind of more physical center. And then a JaVale McGee, Jaxson Hayes. That high-flying, floor-running, right? You could push the pace type of center. I like Jaxson Hayes in that role as, like, the JaVale McGee type. Push the pace, run and gun, right? Have a unit out there with, like, LeBron, Bronny, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jaxson Hayes, and, go get another, DeAnthony Melton or something, where you're just like running and gunning and pushing the pace, right? And you have Jaxson Hayes just sprinting past everybody and just being that lob threat, going up there like a wide receiver and slamming it home, right? I like that idea. I like having that diversity at the center spot, right? So I'm all for keeping Jaxson Hayes. I just don't want him to be our primary center or backup center, right? I don't want you to go and trade for a Mark Williams and then now Jaxson Hayes is your backup. He's not disciplined enough. He lacks. He's one of the. He's like a Taurean Prince, right? And I said this before. It was much more apparent in the playoffs, but Taurean Prince in like 15 minutes was like the best Laker on the court. Like, the guy was ridiculous. Like, the numbers backed it up, the stat, like everything backed it. Like, he was incredible for the Lakers in this like 12 to 15 minute gap. As soon as he played 15 minutes and 1 second, he was the worst Laker by like every metric, right? He was awful, right? And you see that a lot. Guys in this window are excellent, but the more that they play, the more that their flaws start to be exposed. That's what you saw with Jaxson Hayes. Jaxson Hayes in like this 10-minute window is fantastic, right? Because he's high flying, he's hustling, he's doing the dirty work, right? He's grinding, he's working his tail off in that time, right? But then the longer he plays, instead of like 1 foul, now it's 4. Right? Like, now guys are in the bonus, right? Which hurt the Lakers. Now he's getting backdoored and beat and teams are starting to expose him more, right? Like, that's the problem. If you can kind of turn Jaxson Hayes into that third guy to where you're not relying on him, but he could still play a role and get, in that 10-minute range, then perfect. But also, what does Jaxson Hayes want? Is he fine kind of playing that 10-minute role, or is he kind of like, no, I need to be, the starter or at least the primary backup? If that's the case, good luck to you. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. As always, this is a discussion. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.